Welcome back to another Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and today should be one people enjoy, Torgue shotguns, which are incredibly popular guns. Torgue shotguns are special because they have very high base damage, but they also have very high splash damage, meaning you get a lot more out of them than you see on the card, making them total kind of one shot, one kill guns, especially the Ravager, which is the most popular one, since they shoot gyrojets. They have slower bullet speed, but those bullets hit incredibly hard, so they are not shotguns with much range. But within that shotgun short range, they are second to none with just flat out stopping power. Maybe close to some of the Jacobs, but Jacobs rely on a little more critical hit and stuff, where Torgue you can just shoot, kill. To be totally fair and full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of Torgue shotguns and Torgue weaponry in general. I just don't like the feel of them. I can't really describe it better than that. I do like some of the red text Torgue guns, but in general, I'm not a massive fan of Torgue shotguns, especially compared to Jacobs. But I will try to ignore that bias as I go through these, because I do recognize their power and I recognize how good they are. I do use them on some characters. So, going forward, we will just start with the Carnage, which is our pearlescent. And I should probably pop it up here first. So the Carnage only has a single pellet, and it shoots a rocket instead of gyrojets. And this is an important distinction with this gun. Well, it has massive damage for that single pellet there. And, because it's one pellet, it does have decent accuracy. I'll compare the stats here now. You do have better fire rate, better accuracy, but the damage is less. And the Carnage is one of those guns. You see 1860 there. Because it's a rocket, I'm going to spec into some things that will not give me any bonus damage here. Of course, none of these really do. You see, it's still doing card damage of 1860 with a Reaper. And that's because it doesn't shoot bullets and it doesn't have a pellet. It's just a rocket. So the Carnage is somewhat limited characters that can boost its damage better. Maya's kind of an exceptional one that does poorly with it. I'll do Accelerate here, and you see that will, because that will boost base damage of anything, even rockets. But it isn't getting that all-important Reaper. Axton does very good with this because he can boost it really well, and so does Krieg. But it is also one of those vertical grip guns. Now, as you saw here, it's just going to have less damage than the Ravager because it's only a rocket. But it is only one ammo per shot, which is also an important distinction compared to the Ravager. But you see the Ravager here. That's the Flacker. Now you see the Ravager here. You see those damage numbers. So that's 2 million. See if I can pause it there. You got 2 at just shy of 2 million, 1 at almost 3 million, another one just shy of 2 million, another one shy of 1 million. So almost about 6.5 million or something there. Wait, that's off. But yeah, you've seen a ton more damage here. And like I said, if you put the vertical grip on this, then you'd actually be seeing similar damage. Because at this 2.3 here, now you'd be looking at 6.3. Which, looking there, is still quite a bit less. So that's my issue with the Carnage. Now, because it's 1 ammo per shot, that kind of changes it. I mean, you see here, I get 9 shots out of this before a reload compared to 3 shots out of this. And that's also important. That's a big difference. But it's a pearl. Now, I'm not saying the Carnage is bad altogether. It can be very good on, I think, both Axton and Krieg. But that's 2 out of 6. Gage really can't make use of it very well because it doesn't have a pellet. It will get your anarchy damage, but it won't bounce close enough. Zero's got so many critical hit buffs, and this gun can't crit because it doesn't have a pellet. So that kind of makes it a little poor with Zero. Doesn't work with Reaper because it's a rocket. So, Maya, Zero, Gage, it's not the best. I mean, I think Sal can get a lot out of anything, and Axton and Krieg can do it, but once again, it's a Pearl, and it should be a lot better. I'm fine with it just shooting rockets, but maybe it should be a little closer to a rocket launcher or something. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna have to think about the Carnage a little bit more to like what they should do with it to make it better. But yeah, like I said, with the vertical grip, it can be a good gun on some of the characters, not all of the characters. So that's worth noting. And I'm okay with guns that are better with some characters than others, but they should be a little more useful on all characters, I think. So next, we have the legendary Flacker, which is, I guess, as close to a controversial gun in Borderlands as you can get. That kind of seems like a weird thing to say a video game has controversy over a shotgun. But the Flacker has kind of a love-hate relationship with the community. Some people love it, some people hate it. You hear a lot like, oh, the Flacker sucks, or whining when people get the Flacker. The Flacker... Alright, before I start with any of that, it's a vertical grip gun, once again. You can see here, it only has 3 pellets. Each pellet does a lot more than what the Ravager does, but it's got 3 versus 16. The accuracy is even worse, the fire rate is even worse, the reload speed is even worse, but the mag size is better, giving you 4 shots, but that is... it still doesn't look great on the stat line. Now, when you up this to 5 pellets, it's a major difference. I'm going to go outside to shoot the Flacker here. I'll probably respec 2 to get rid of those skill points I expected to. You see with the Flacker here, there's a big explosion. Now, from this direction, I did damage to the radio, I think. It's hard to see how many explosions there are, because some are in front of the other ones, and there's a decent amount going off. From best we can tell, from like people doing slowdown videos and all that, and looking at it from the side, each pellet puts off somewhere between 8 and 10 explosions that all do original card damage. So that's unlisted pellets. Unlisted pellets play nice with the B and amp shields, of course. So with this, you can get somewhere between 800 to 1000% extra amp damage, which is quite important. But the pellets don't explode to a certain range either, as you can see here. So with this, there I only hit him twice. Once. But there you see it. So 7. 3. And it's partially RNG based as well. So there's quite a bit of damage. There was not so much, So this guy is not the ideal target for the Flacker. The Flacker is best used on groups of enemies, because as you can see there, the best idea is to get 7 on him. And somehow that hit the wall in front of me and didn't blow up with him. So that was only a couple million. There again. So the Flacker is best, like I was saying before I kind of got distracted shooting him, done on groups of enemies, where you can hit a lot of enemies with that one shot. Like the Ravager, if you get two enemies really close, you can hit two enemies with a Ravager, but most of the time you're going to be hitting one enemy with a Ravager. The Flacker is meant for kind of crowd control. You have a bunch of enemies, you can kind of group them up with a singularity grenade and hit them all. You know, that was another example of good damage on a single target. There's two more 777s below. Or on large bosses where you can land all the pellets on that boss. So the Flacker has massive potential damage, but it's not the easiest gun to get used to. And it needs a vertical grip. Now, one little trick with the Flacker, because it's hard to see it from shooting it in this direction, but it shoots in a cone. So it's biggest kind of close to you, then it gets smaller as the explosions go. And you'll see that in the, I think Blute and Polka did a video together showing that I will try to dig up and link. That showed a good side view of how the Flacker shoots. But if you jump when you shoot, that's when I'm landing the most pellets more often. Not always. Like there, for example. But there, you know, you see a few more. So what you want to do, this wall is in the way of doing it normally. But you typically want to kind of shoot down at an angle, kind of almost at like a 45. Because that way the cone scoots along the ground and doesn't go up into the air, and you can hit more enemies with it. So there's a decent amount to learning how to use the Flacker. And it's not a gun you can just point, shoot, and have it be better than the Ravager. But it can beat the Ravager in certain situations. And in other situations, the Ravager is better. They did improve this gun in the pre-sequel. I think they tightened up the cone, or each pellet puts off more explosions. It's hard to tell how they changed it, but it is much more effective in the pre-sequel and a little easier to get a handle on, especially for mobbing. But the Flacker has some of the highest damage potential in the entire game of any gun, including the Pimpernel. It's just, you have to... That's not on all targets. It's on certain targets, and you have to understand how to get that damage out of it. So the Flacker, I think it's a good legendary. I like that what they did with it in the pre-sequel better, because, you know, they kind of curved it and made it a little easier to handle. But it does not suck by any measure. People suck with using it, but the gun doesn't suck. And there's a difference between the gun sucking and people sucking. Next, we have the Sword-Splosion. Once again, it's another vertical grip gun. It only has a single pellet. Now, like the Carnage, that single pellet does a lot of damage. Not quite as much of the Carnage. You see the stats are generally worse than the Carnage, but what it does, it shoots a sword. And that sword shoots off mini swords. And I don't know if we can see it here. I'm going to try to get close. See if I can pause it at the right moment. So if you look up at that sword, up by where it says resume, you can see attached to it is a little ball, kind of where the handle would be. It's a grenade. So the main sword is a pellet with splash damage, a regular kind of like gyrojet pellet. And the swords that shoot out, the three ones, are grenades. So it has two different ammo types. And the grenades are just purely splash damage. There is no pellet. And I believe they are 50... No, they're not 50%. I gotta double check what the actual percentage is on them. I'll put that up as an annotation. But they're just a percentage of splash damage. So this gun has a lot of potential. So you can see just shooting here, it still doesn't have that Ravager damage, but if you increase it to a vertical grip, then you are looking at kind of Ravager damage between this, because each pellet then, or each sword will put off additional 3 unlisted pellets that are grenades. So then you start to do massive damage with this thing, and it can outperform a Ravager, especially because you see here it's 2 ammo per pellet, not 3. Now, I'm not even entirely sure this should be compared to a Ravager because this has an E-Tech barrel, but there's no E-Tech Torgue shotguns normally, so it's hard to know what to compare it to. Maybe I should compare it to a Jacob's barrel. I don't really know. It's kind of tough. So I just kind of compared it to a Ravager there. But it is a vertical grip gun, so you are limited. It's kind of hard to farm because it's a mission reward, but which makes it so easy to farm. But it's a pain in the ass because you really want a Torgue grip and a vertical grip. Now, getting the most out of this, the main pellet does not get grenade boosts. It actually gets 100% Reaper boost. But the 3 extra explosions are grenades, so they do get grenade boosts. So it's really weird in how the mechanics of it actually work. But you can see here, just on that pellet alone, it's doing a ton of damage. So this is an amazing shotgun with the caveat of it needs the right parts. Kind of like both of these two. I think the Sword-Splosions might be the best out of these 3. It doesn't have the damage potential of the Flacker, but it's a lot easier to get a lot of damage out of it, and you still have that crowd control damage. You still have 300% amp damage because they each have 3 unlisted pellets. Even a little bit actually more than that because of the splash damage as well. So it works really good with amp shields. It works really good without amp shields. It works really good with skills like Bore, Chain Reaction, Nth Degree, because it has a bullet split on impact. So it's an interesting gun because there's a lot of ways you can get a lot out of it, or you can just shoot it and it wins. And it shoots swords, so that's just fucking cool. I think out of these 3 I've gone over so far, it's the best of them. Like I said, not the potential of the Flacker, but it just handles a little bit better. And now we are moving on to our last Torgue shotgun, the Landscaper. So the Landscaper, once again, has reduced pellet count, increased accuracy, which again could be partially due to the reduced pellet count, lowered reload speed, more damage per pellet, but less pellets, meaning it's doing less overall damage. Now, bring it up here so you guys can see it. The Landscaper, once again, shoots out grenades. And those grenades hit the ground, and yes, they can hurt you. So they slowly move up, and then they explode. Now, they are kind of like a proximity, so if you hit an enemy with them, they will instantly explode. But you see that kind of pattern. Those 2 are on that wall still there. Are they going to blow up? Yep. So it's really hard to hit enemies directly with it, because as you see, I'm shooting directly at him, and they're all missing him. So to actually hit him directly, I have to aim like this. And then the other ones blow up. Now if I just shoot like there, so this gun I definitely think is much worse. Let's see what this does to me. So not too much damage. But of course I didn't have any skills on. But yeah, this gun is pretty terrible. If it didn't have such a long delay for them to blow up if they don't hit a target, it wouldn't be as bad. I'm going to go up to a wall and shoot it, so you can kind of see the spread of it better. Let's go up here. It's not really flat, but that'll do. So you can see where they land there. Now if you use it at point blank range, the other issue is, like a shotgun, and that hits an enemy, it's going to blow up in your face. which is not going to be good. I'll just do that and wait here. That's kind of a weird look. So that's not going to be good for you. And it's not like the Orphan Maker where it has this massive damage potential where it's worth using it and taking some damage. It also is kind of another vertical grip gun. And if you do get a vertical grip, I forgot how it adds it. I don't remember if it's like crisscross or you get both top or both bottom. But you kind of need the vertical grip with it. It's hard to use, and even if you use it right, the damage isn't very good. Like the Flacker is hard to use, but it has massive damage potential. The Landscaper is hard to use, and it doesn't have much damage potential, and it can hurt you. You know, the Sword-Splosion can hurt you, but it's easy to use, and it does a ton of damage to enemies. I should actually demonstrate that too. So the Landscaper to me is pretty much all fail. So there you saw. So yeah, this gun can hurt you. Not the main pellet, is the swords that come off. So the Landscaper, I don't know how they fix this. Maybe it just needs a big damage boost. Maybe it needs more grenades. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Goes down. Okay, so the Landscaper, if it had, let's say 6 grenades and 2 grenades were in the middle, so when you actually shoot it at him, I can hit 2 grenades on him and then I get the splash damage of the ones around him. That wouldn't be terrible. So just by kind of changing the firing pattern of it, that would help a lot. And adding 2 pellets to it would help a lot. And then the other thing to do with it is decrease the delay here. Make them blow up in half that time. So if you would add 2 pellets to it in the middle of the spread and make them explode faster, I think this could be a decent shotgun. And it could be fun to use and interesting. But as it is, it's not very good. I mean, I have seen people use it to decent effect. Abadiviak over at the Gearbox forums. I mean, he's one of those kind of creative players that make a lot of things that suck work. But yeah, the Landscapers are kind of bad. So that is Torgue Red Text shotguns. Overall, I don't know. I think it's overall kind of a fail because the Ravager is so good and so easy to use, and they didn't really do a good Red Text version of it. I love the Flacker, but it's really different. That's what I wanted of Red Text guns. And the Sword-Splosion's really awesome, but the rest aren't. And it would have been kind of cool to see good versions of other Torgue shotguns, and we didn't get a whole lot. I'd say the Carnage is, especially as a Pearl. If this was a blue gun, maybe not, but as a Pearl, I think it's somewhat of a failure. The Landscaper is definitely a failure. The Flacker is really good, but it's hard to use. And then you have the Sword-Splosion that's flat out good. And I think the Sword-Splosion is one of the best versions of a red text gun, period. Because it's powerful. It's got a little bit of a learning curve, but you can get a lot out of it if you understand the gun and understand its mechanics. It gets a little bit of a minus point for being parts dependent so much. They're really great guns like the Twister and the Pimpernel, the Liuta. You can use them with a lot of good prefixes. The Sword-Splosion is limited to 1. And that's the other kind of sad thing about the Torgue red text guns. Pretty much all of them are limited to a single prefix of the vertical grip. I mean, all of these guns have tiny reduced pellet counts. And that's kind of sad too. It would have been nice to see like a full pellet count interesting Torgue shotgun. And they didn't deliver any of those. So while I like to see guns different, they got to be different and good. So here we have about half and half, maybe a little bit better, because Carnage is good on certain characters. This is total fail. But yeah, I just don't think they did the best job with the Torgue red text shotguns. There's not a ton of them either. compared to some of the other brands that we saw a lot more of. So let me know what you guys think about these, you know. I mean, you could make a case where the Ravager is better than all four of these, sadly enough. And that's where it is a bit of a fail. Yeah, I mean, the Sword-Splosion and the Flacker can be better than the Ravager, but in other situations, the Ravager can be better than those two. So even the best of the two can be outperformed by the regular Torgue shotgun. And regular Torgue shotguns are really good. So it's kind of a bit like Jacob's. I think it's a little worse than Jacob's Red Tex, but Jacob's regular shotguns are really good. And the Twister and the Striker were good, but the rest were kind of meh. So, yeah, that is, once again, the good, the bad, the ugly for Torgue shotguns. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of these, or if you have any ideas how to make some of these better, because I think I have a little bit less of an idea than some other guns. A lot of other guns are a little simpler how to improve them. Mainly the Landscaper and the Carnage. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have not subscribed yet, I'd appreciate it if you do that. I also appreciate when you guys share and comment and like and all that stuff. So thanks for watching. Bye.